welcome everyone. We're gonna start with this panel in which we're gonna talk about entrepreneurship in Cornwall and the community in Cornwall in particular. We're very lucky today to have three guests with us. We got I'm gonna start from the first one next to me, which is Izzy. That is actually working for the law school at the moment in the Cornwall campus and for University of Exeter, and then I got Shibon on the other side of my screen, and she's the founder of. Tell me if I'm wrong, but the name is Olive Mea.
Olive Mea, yeah.
Yeah. And then finally we got Jones, who is the founder of My Money Story, and I'm gonna then start by asking you, each of you to talk a little bit about your journey and so far, and to introduce yourself. You're gonna do a better job than me for sure. And then I'm gonna have a couple of questions for you before we open actually to anybody, to ask you questions, and we can debate, a bit more. So shall we start from maybe Jones, and then we go to Shibon and then Izzy. If you can introduce yourself, you got 5 to 8 minutes, to say a bit general introduction.
Okay, I'm not muted anymore. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Sorry, I tried to mute myself. Hi everyone. My name is Jones. I am Falmouth-based Cornwall. I'm founder of a company called Money Story, which is a financial well-being coaching app. Came out of the Falmouth Launchpad program. I moved to Cornwall to launch that particular venture, as well as a master's studies. That was in February 2019, and I've been there ever since. Moved my family up. Prior to this, I co-founded another sports technology company in East London, where I was originally based, and did that for about 2 years. But I've worked in various sort of senior sales roles for companies like BT and Thomson Reuters. So, I'm as you can probably guess, I'm not local, as it were, but I've become adopted Cornish, and I'm sort of making my way in the region to try to launch this venture and see how far I can go in the local community and further afield.
Do you want to say something about My Money Story? Because I look at the website and everything, but it looks like a mind-blowing idea. I love it, but I want you to just pitch the idea to everyone.
All right, cool. So, Money Story is the financial well-being coaching app, and basically what we're trying to do is help individuals to achieve a sense of optimism and confidence as they reach out to their financial lives. When we created the app, we were looking at the industry or the marketplace as far as fintech and money is concerned. And we felt like there was a lot of expectation for people to know where to go and what to do with money. And we felt that a lot of people were struggling with the subjective dynamics that relate to money, which limits them from actually engaging. So a lot of people might know what to do, but for many reasons, they just can't. So we're helping users to look at their financial identity, so their level of self-efficacy, their motivation, their optimism. We're introducing them to content around where they say they want to go, what the areas they want to focus on, whether it's debt or otherwise, so they can actually adopt the right posture, and then introduce them to behavior change they can make immediately to get them to where they want to go financially.
I think everyone would need this, in general. It looks like, they never teach you really how to manage your money. So this is a great idea. Okay, let's move to Shibon. And do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, Shibon Armstrong. I've been in Cornwall since 2007, 13 years. I came down here. I was offered a job down here, basically, and that's housing officer. And I've been with my employer ever since. I was getting to the point where I was getting a bit bored of housing, should I say. And I've always had the idea of starting some kind of food or hair care business down here, based on the fact that I figured if I was always going back up to Huddersfield, West Yorkshire, to buy provisions and hair care products, there must be other people down here that are doing the same thing. So why not have that facility down here? At the time when I was thinking of it, though, my 3 children were pretty young. So, and me being a single parent, I didn't have the time or the energy to start anything like that. So fast forward to now, my eldest is at uni, and I've got the other 2 teens here with me. And I thought it's a opportune time, really. So I started Olive May's Kitchen. I also started the hair and skincare side of the business as well. But I've probably put more effort into the kitchen side. And I started out selling food at St Ives once a month, and that did well. So then I thought I'd try my hand at Falmouth, and they said, "Yay, come down here." So I did, and I started there last week Saturday, and it was really good. So it's sort of like giving me the buzz to think, okay, can I squeeze another one during the midweek? Bearing in mind that I have to use my annual leave because I work full time, so it would only be like a once a month thing as well. So it's things like that I'm thinking about, but this is what I actually want to do. I want to do the kitchen and put housing to bed now. I think I've since 99. I think I've done it justice. I've done enough now. So yeah, that's me.
David, we can't hear you.
Probably I mute myself, I don't know how I did it, but I managed. Okay. Last but not least, Easy, can you just say, a few words about your journey so far? And you maybe mute as well. Maybe Ollie can unmute you. I think that's the trick. That's it.
Oh, yeah, finally. Sorry. I was just trying to kind of communicate that quickly. I'm Izzy. I work for Exeter University. I'm a digital learning developer, which everyone always asks me what on earth that is. So I'm supporting College of Social Sciences with translating the existing face-to-face learning online, essentially. And I mainly support the law department with that. I'm lead with decolonizing the curriculum when it comes to the digital front and really helping them to be able to, really get that off the ground and start the wheels rolling when it comes to Pembrokeshire Politics Department. My areas of interest are probably employability and widening participation for underrepresented groups. I came to Cornwall when, how long ago? 5 years ago. Feels like it was a blip. So in 2015, and I came to study international relations with English and study abroad. So whilst I didn't really anticipate that I would stay after I graduated, it's been quite the journey, and I'm really happy with my decision. What else have I been up to? I worked for the business school last year, and so I was helping them with college operations and employability initiatives. So that's been really interesting to kind of see firsthand on the scene the challenges that students in higher education are facing. And then on the flip side, the rewards and challenges in Cornwall.
So later I'm going to ask you something about, what do you think about the university role in when you say decolonizing the curriculum? It's a very interesting topic for me. So we can talk about this, and so my first question is, I'm Italian, I'm based at the business school, and I came to Cornwall 5 years ago. So my feeling is that I'm not Cornish, but nobody seems to be Cornish in Cornwall, which is an interesting concept. And so when I arrived here, I found a very, very close-knit community. People knowing each other. It's something that I love, and everybody in a way loved about Cornwall. The fact that you say hi to each other. Is a bit like this. Everything is a bit like you could say 50 years ago, no, if you live somewhere else. So in which a community is, there is a sense of community, basically, of belonging to here. So my question is, my first question for each of you is, how these affect, your feeling, being a black person, in a place like Cornwall? Does it help you to be more active into the community, or is because it's such a close-knit community, then somehow there is this sense of group thinking, or we all think the same, we all kind of belong to a certain stereotype of how you should be, and this creates further barriers, no, instead of because like John, starting from you've been living in London, and you've been living in different places, so you can also compare maybe living in Cornwall with living in other places.
I don't know. I think you need to take into account our unique personalities and our how we sort of see the world, right? So having migrated to the UK and moved to Hackney in East London and being right in the thick of things, and actually launching a
I was living in Hackney as well.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so I mean, it's not quite where it is now, but having gone through all of that and come all the way here, I found that there really isn't. Let's be frank, there really isn't, as it were, a big, a black community. There are, pockets of the community out there in the region, and I think with time, because it's so small, actually, we're starting to see each other's faces, and we're starting to get to know each other. So I think there's an organic nature to it. I've not found it that challenging because I expected it. It's like migrating to the UK from another. You kind of know what you're in for. So I've not found it that challenging necessarily. And I don't necessarily see it as having been a problem for me in terms of trying to get business going, I guess. Depending on where you've come from, I've come from the London vibe. So in my mind, I'm bringing the London energy to the region, and I'm trying to get things done for myself. And I kind of believe and I see that closeness of the community actually means that your ability to impact is possibly felt a bit better, and it's probably a bit more welcome and more sought after. And so I think those are things that I hold more in my mind when I'm navigating through the environment. But we do need more of a community here, but they're different types of community. So as far as entrepreneurship and enterprise, it's not been too much of a challenge for me, but it's something I desire more of.
So do you see like there is a possibility of doing things in Cornwall in a different way from other places, like London, or in terms of doing business here?
100%. I think it's just in the way it is over here. It's just a different ballgame. If you look at what Cornwall was known for, what we're creating, what's coming out, whether it be agri-tech or it's just more things around well-being and consciousness or the arts, it's just the way things are just different. So there's a lot to be said for being outside of the ecosystem of the Southeast and what that allows you to do. It really does allow you to think about what you do best and what you like doing and doing that. That's been my experience anyway.
Is it the well-being inspired by being in Cornwall, or is it an idea that you had before? Because there is a lot of well-being here. Right? Yeah.
These things happen. These things happen. I mean, well-being is just a catchphrase, right? We're just trying to help people to be well. So I guess if you're going to help in any way, you kind of fall under that well-being umbrella. It's just a catchphrase, but I just think there's something to be said for it here, really. People become more people-focused here. So invariably, whether you're aware of the bias or not, you kind of think more about helping people out. And that's special about where we are, I think.
Okay. Shibon, can you also, what is your experience? You've been here for longer than probably us, so you can see also the difference, how things have changed.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I came down 13 years ago, there wasn't there's not a lot of black people here now already, but there really wasn't a lot when I first came down. And for the first probably year, I would go and do my shopping, do the food shop, and every time I go there, they would say, "Oh, so you're down on holiday then?" I just think, no, and I was here last Friday. You saw me here last Friday. Or I would get, "Oh, I saw you up by the hospital." I think, no, that weren't me. So I was getting a lot of that, but racism, like Josie said, I expected it, but kind of didn't expect it. I thought, yeah, okay, there's not a lot of black people down in Cornwall. They might say something, but brushed it off before I moved down here. But then I did get a bit of racism. My kids suffered racism at school, just a little bit, basically. I mean, I nipped it in the bud. It was sorted, not a problem. And so going forward, the community is growing. And I don't know about Jonesy and Izzy, but whenever I see what I perceive to be a new black face, I sort of like say, oh, hello. I sort of like greet them as well, and they'd look at me and greet me, sort of like a solidarity, like, yeah, I know what you're going through as well, so to speak. But yeah, it's been okay, actually. Because I go back home to Huddersfield, I call it home. I call it home. I go back up there so often as well. I kind of haven't had the chance to miss being up there as yet, so to speak. But I kind of do miss my family and miss that family time and miss. I mean, I have a lot of friends that have not moved out down here, and their friends' children are all friends together, and they all went to school together and all grew up together. And I kind of miss that sort of thing from not being at home myself. With regards to the business, I think because it's something not new, but it's kind of unique down here. They don't have a lot of Caribbean food outlets down here. So in that respect, it's nice to be a bit different. So I think it's working that way. So when I do say, oh, I make Jamaican food or Caribbean food, it's like, oh, instead of, oh yeah, I make pizzas or I make, I don't know, burgers and chips. It's not, fish and chips is British staple, do you know what I mean? Whereas Akin Saltfish, they have no idea. They might want to try it. It's something different. So that's kind of like worked in my favour, the food side of it. But you do still get the stares and things, but I think that's not going to change, really, to be fair. Some of it I would like to put down to them just being intrigued about who we are and who I am as a black woman, what's the difference. But yeah, it's been probably 80% positive, 20% negative, really.
So, can I ask you said that your children, kind of leave this through the school, being kind of part of probably the only one, black children. How did they how they see this now that they're grown up? Are they do they feel like they belong to this region where they looking forward to leave as soon as possible? How did they grow up?
Yeah, funny you should say that. Yeah, because with the COVID, my 18-year-old, she was accepted Leeds. With the COVID, it was obvious that the classes were going to be online at the university. So I did say to her, look, you might as well defer for a year, see how it goes, and then go next year. And she says, do you know what? No, I'm going to go because I'm missing the diversity. I want black friends. I don't want to still be the only black person in the group of friends that I have. And that is one of the reasons why she has left and gone up to Leeds. And she's buzzing up there. It's weird for her to see so many black people in one area, so to speak, and she's loving it. And I feel really bad that she's not had that experience, really. I mean, yes, we go home and she sees all our family and everything, but it's not enough for her to be going out into events and things like that and seeing a whole load, like Independence Day in August and things like that. She hasn't experienced that. So she's loving it now. And I think Cornwall is really good for children, for toddlers and primary school kids. But once they hit high school and college, unless they're a surfer or they love the beach, there's not much really for them to do here. So that's when their eyes start to wander towards the big bright lights of the cities and they make a decision. So my son has now made a decision that when he wants to go to Manchester University, and I'm thinking, I'm just losing everybody here. I might as well go back up myself. So I'm just waiting for my third one to say, well, she wants to do her GCSEs up there. I don't know. But, yeah. it's there's not much for them to do, but yes, they do. Within school structure, I think with my children, they didn't realise, it wasn't noticeable as such, the difference until they're in the classroom and they're doing the history and it's about slavery, or they're reading that book, is it Of Mice and Men, with the N word in it, and so everyone's encouraged to say the N word because they're reading a portion of this book, and so my child's in that classroom and a white child will say the N word, and then people look at my child and say, "Oh, sorry," type thing. Do you know what I mean? So that's when it drives home that they are different. But yeah, I think they kind of got used to being the only black child in a group of white people, white friends, really.
This is a major point, to take into account, when you think about the education in Cornwall and everything. I could talk about this for a while, but just let's move to Izzy, and I'm gonna ask you, the same question. How is this, close community that is both a bless and, to some extent, a problem, sometimes, I guess.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's amazing rewards to living in Cornwall and the Southwest, and I'm sure we can all reflect on just some of the advantages. I think the challenge that I've found as a Black woman has just been particularly having to defend my Britishness. I was born and grew up in Britain, and still feeling and kind of faced in situations where I'm almost having to defend myself, defend my roots, defend my upbringing. And that's really kind of unsettling. I think that's partly what I felt belonging to or coming into such a community down here. I think also there's just, the lack of representation is no doubt so noticeable. I found that when I do go to London and other cities alike, I do find myself just staring because I haven't seen in so long such representation and diversity. And you sometimes down here can forget that actually, even though theoretically that other parts of the UK and the world are not like that, that it's different when you actually see it face to face. I think also what can be really challenging is socially has been almost this denial and white fragility when it comes to race and discrimination. It makes it very difficult for people from a BAME background to even kind of enter that space of talking about issues with race. It's just exhausting and it's really tiring. And I think that people are very, very aware, very well-intentioned, and very kind of, they don't want to be labelled as racist. But like, what happens is no matter what, kind of all this good intentioned, you can kind of be so preoccupied with shying away from the label that you actually don't pay enough attention to what you're doing, which can be racist. But I've actually had a largely positive experience here. I think the community is very welcoming. I think the way of life here is unique. The innovation, which is echoed in society, is just like no other. And at the end of the day, beyond just our employability and our income, there is something that keeps us here. We are all still here. And I think it's beyond just opportunities that we're in that like such as university, that kind of where you feel like, okay, I have to be here because I'm studying my degree. I said that last year and I still stayed. There is something unique about this place. And I think moving forward, they need to address that in the sense of actually, we do need to start talking about race. We do actually need to start talking about the opportunities that are more applicable for underrepresented groups. I think, like Siobhan mentioned it, you know, in high school, that's extremely difficult to only hear slavery as being the only history about Black history, and it's not. And I think as a nation, yes, we struggle with this, but I think it can make certain spaces just more reflective of kind of and representative as a of the kind of Black community. I think sometimes you can feel somewhat like a token of all Black people, somewhat like Siobhan was mentioning. You just kind of, I think it's so common to get mistaken for looking like someone else, but especially when you're amongst the very few Black people in the community, it's just, you know, there's almost like no consciousness to notice the distinction. And I think not being able to embrace that diversity in the individual can be really challenging here. And so, I think we all know racism and discrimination is prevalent everywhere. Being part of a diverse community doesn't eliminate that. However, I think there are certain challenges that are more representative in Cornwall because of the lack of diversity and awareness and inclusivity.
Can I ask you also, to start with Jones, where you think we are at this point with this debate? You know, did we reaching? Is it very difficult for me, you know, especially from my point of view, to understand whether we are reaching a tipping point and things are massively changing in front of our eyes? And, you know, this is, we're thinking about so many, public debate about the history of this country and the history also in the US, you know, Black Lives Matters and all these things happening. Or it's just because of the frustration about the fact that things are not moving as fast as they should and we are stuck, you know, sort of in the same place. What is your feeling about, you know, the moment that we're living like?
I mean, optimism glasses on. I think, it's certainly a different time in terms of more of a collective awareness and acknowledgement of the presence of active racism in our society here and now and how it impacts different parts of the community or the society for the BAME community. I'm not sure, in fact, I'm certain it's never been this way. I think there is a lot of, I don't want to go into, invariably there will always be opportunistic rhetoric going around with major corporates around what they say they're going to do. But on a people-to-people level, I'm not sure of the experiences of other people, but the amount of people that have reached out to me personally, Cornwall and further afield, to actually just have a conversation with me about my experiences, and I'm blown away by the things that I tell them. And it just shows that there is a shift. I think the frustration part now really is how we harness that shift and what actual change is going to happen to underpin that, so we don't ravel backwards, we move forward. And so things like what we do as society around employment, about racism, active racism, reporting out what we do in our educational institutions, decolonizing the curriculum, and the whitewash nature of it, redrafting the narrative around what it means to be Black and Black history, Black British history as well. There is an anxiety around how we do that now and how best to do it. And I think that's just based largely upon the amount of processes that are involved to bring about this change. So I think we are at a tipping point, but it means nothing if the change doesn't happen on a systemic level now to make sure that we can move forward. And I don't think anybody's in a position to confirm whether or not that's happening or happened. But big milestones like what happens in academia and in our educational institutions will go a long, long way in saying if we've actually stepped forward or not, as opposed to the token hire of a diversity officer who happens to be brown.
Do you think, Jones, there is anything that we can do at the university, to as an institution, to help this tipping point to shift, Well, I mean, I think
it would only be my view, and I think you kind of have to harness the views of the likes of Izzy and Siobhan to and collect all that information to see what we all think can be done. But for me, when leadership is able to undertake, and it's not racial bias training, but actually tests to assess your level of racial bias as an individual, is massive for me. So actually, as an institution, saying everyone in leadership or position of influence is actually going through this actual test to see and can be confronted with the fact about how they currently think about race and how it affects how they make decisions. That would be massive. And then you can add the layers of training and coaching. But I think for me, and I think I'm in a coaching app, right? You know, that's what I do as a day job. The acknowledgement and the awareness of truth cannot be replaced from change. And I think that beyond, you know, big university logo and things coming out on a high level saying this is how we feel, to look around and say all our leadership have taken this test, they're all confronting where they are concerning their racial bias, and now we're going to think about what we do on it, would be a massive win. I think that's something every institution with leaders should think about doing, and that's leading by example for me.
I love this idea. That's great. Siobhan, can I ask you the same question? Like, where are we with this? You know, do you feel like this is really like changing everything, or you know, what is missing? You know, what do we need to really make this change systemic?
I mean, okay, so we saw the toppling of the Colston statue in Bristol. And we know about Sir Francis Drake in Plymouth and the like. My feeling is, if we're not going to remove these statues, then you need to actually own up and say, okay, this person brought in, there was a good figure, they, you know, philanthropy and all that, they were perfect people, and they also were slave owners, or they also were slave traders. You need to add these little bits in there so that the history, the British history, is actually laid bare. Because a lot of people are wondering why are people so mad about these statues that have been stood for, you know, hundreds of years, and, you know, all of a sudden they want them toppled. What's going on? This guy was a good guy. But I think that the British history the teaching needs to be changed. It needs to be the true reality of where Britain was, what they did, how they did it, and just own up and just accept it. I think it needs to start there as well in the schools, because what kids generally do in the schools, they basically take their work back home and they discuss it with their parents, and it's also educating them as well to say, this is what I learned today, not just about, like Izzy said, slavery, but this is what Sir Francis Drake actually did. So I think that's a good start. But I also agree with the racial bias as well, with the top layer, the senior managers of these companies as well. And we're actually, our diversity group at work have actually raised this with our EDI group, which is an all-white group, Equality, Diversity and Inclusion team. And we did question this because we were saying, well, we don't recognise anybody on that panel. You know, we can't see ourselves in that panel. And it starts with places like that as well, because they actually did not see any issue with having an all-white panel. And that included, there was no disabilities on there, there was nothing on there, there was no LGBT, it was just general senior managers who would come together, have a chat, and then basically put a PowerPoint together, and there you go, we've ticked our box. So we did ruffle some feathers in that respect. But yeah, it's just changing people's perception, really. And I have in the past had people say to me, well, you're not black. When I say black, I don't mean you, you're not black. You know, and it's like, well, what do you mean by that then? I'm not, you know, I don't know, Shaniqua with the big hoop earrings or something. What is, you know, what? So it's just changing people's perceptions. But the current situation at the minute, I'm hoping it's going to make a change. I really do hope it makes a change. But I just don't know if it's going to run out of steam and we're going to still be back in the same situation that we were before. And then something else happens to reignite it again. And I don't know how we keep it going, to be fair. I just don't know. But things need to change. We need to be seen as equal But I just don't think that we ever will, really, so to speak. And it sounds awful, but I hope we will. But I think it's going to be a long time. And to be fair, the youth now, when I say youth, and I've made myself feel really old when I say youth, I'm only 44, and I'm talking about the 18 and the 19 and the 20s, basically. And they are really, really militant on this. And they're looking at us as older people to say, well, why didn't you guys sort all this out before? Why are we doing it now? And they're on it. And I really hope that they continue and they do press forward with the situation and get it somewhere, further than, we ever did. I rambled.
We got a really good question actually from Raphael asking if you have any example of initiatives or actions that make you feel more hopeful. Something that it's something that you've seen or that you heard that's really make you more hopeful in this situation.
Any initiatives?
Yeah, examples or initiatives of things, that's demonstrates, that things are, I guess, that make you feel, things are really like happening.
I think with the marches, the BLM marches, to be fair, when we all came together, that was quite powerful for me to say that we're actually standing up and actually doing something. That was a powerful moment for me. And to be totally honest, and I don't know how Izzy and Jones feel about this, I was in Truro. I went to the Truro BLM march. My family were in Yorkshire at the Leeds and the Huddersfield marches, where it's a lot more black people there. And how can I say this without sounding really disrespectful? But I felt that I would have enjoyed it more or felt more as part of something if I was in a more diverse group. Because when I stood there in Truro, I honestly felt like, can I say it?
You're among friends. If you say, don't say too much, but just...
I won't say too much. I felt like there were lots of white people sort of like looking at the odd black people there, saying, "Oh, poor you. Oh, sorry. Oh, this is. Oh, I'm sorry." Do you know what I mean? And I just felt there was no actual support from other black people. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if I'd have been in Leeds, for example, there would have been so many black people there, and it would have been an actual movement, and it would have been like, a powerful, yeah. But I'm not disrespecting anything that the Truro BLM put on. It was a good day, apart from, it was spoiled at the end by certain groups, but and they did their best. And I'm glad they put it on, but yeah,
No, I understand.
But I think that initiative was really good.
Okay. Then I last question for you, because we got one in the chat. Erno want to know whether it's more challenging to be an entrepreneur in Cornwall or to be a person of color in Cornwall, being entrepreneur and person of color in Cornwall. And I guess, if have you been supported? You feel like this there is enough support for you here as an entrepreneur?
Who's that to? Is that me?
Yeah, to you. Oh. Just last question.
Yeah, I think as a person of colour down here, when I first came, I didn't feel supported, and that's one of the reasons why we started Inspiring Women's Network with my friend Noor, who is Muslim. But now going forward, I think there is support out there. It's just about knowing where to go. Entrepreneur-wise, I had to find a lot of things out myself. I asked questions, but I wasn't getting the right answers because I know nothing about business or starting business or anything. I just know how to cook. That's it. So I think that side of it, it's been easy so far. It's just been time management for myself, basically. But if I had the time on my side, I could probably do a lot more. But yeah, I think it's been okay. It's been fine for me.
Okay, then I'm gonna ask Jones as well. But coming to Izzy, what do you think? Where we are at the moment, and also if you can say something about maybe the university environment and the role of the university making this change lasting, as we said, as Siobhan said.
Yeah, I think the others have spoken about it really well. Particularly James, when reflecting on the fact that there is a shift, I think I've personally seen a shift with the kind of a collective consciousness. I've had almost just too many people reach out to me to discuss about my experiences and things that I've gone through. And George Floyd is not the first Black person to die. It's both a mixture of kind of wow and wonder when people ask how I'm doing, and then also slightly insulting because this has been happening for a really long time. And so the fact that you're only starting to somewhat open your eyes to the reality of what's going on it's challenging just as much as it's great to see the awareness on an individual level to actually do something about it. But I do agree in the sense of we're yet to see what the results of that will be. I think it's a starting point. I think it can be a turning point, but yet there's still a lot of things that need to be solidified and processes that need to take place before we can actually start to see the kind of footprints of the change that we need to see. And so I think it's in a way probably a bit too early to tell whether this will lead to. Kind of also reflecting a bit on what Siobhan said, I went to a protest also in Truro. I think it was kind of a Black Lives Matter protest. And I definitely relate to what you have spoken about and also the aspects that you're finding difficult to say. I think to add to that also, there was a sense of, I was really aware that people, it was a protest where I would say 99.9% of people were from a white background. And so, that can be extremely alienating when actually you're in a protest about people who look like you. On the other hand, it was actually very, it was new, it was different in the sense of, for once, for the first time, I didn't have to be the only person defending my race. I didn't have to be the only person stepping up and being an ally and being an advocate. There were people there who were wanting to do that, and I could just sit back and not actually have to be at the forefront of really advocating for the rights of equality for people in my skin color. And so that was something I've never seen before. And so I think there were multiple challenges, exactly what Siobhan mentioned, and drawbacks, and even with the speeches that I heard, there were some extreme challenges. However, I think that was something unique that I saw. Do I think everyone there was aware, or as aware as they could have been and should have been? Do I think there was a hype going on in the media and Instagram? Absolutely. But I think there were some people there because they believed that they did want to stand up, they did want to fight, that it wasn't just our responsibility to talk about the privilege and the discrimination and actually stand up. And so that was something new I saw. What the university can be doing or should be doing, wow, that's big, big question. I'll speak just from a maybe Cornwall front, in the sense of, and we spoke a little bit about this just before the meeting started. I mean, I've never seen a Black History agenda in the way that I have seen this month. And so I know that there are people down here who are, you know, such significant advocates and working tirelessly to actually improve the EDI opportunities and presences here. But at the same time, it's really challenging, and it's a shame that it's taken this long for things to even start to kind of blossom. And so I remember being a student down here, you know, last year and years before that, and just wondering, you know, what on earth is available for in Black History Month, the 1 month that is meant to really echo and reflect and teach and enrich students about Black history and history of African people. You know, where is that? Where's the visibility? Where is the awareness? And so do I think that we are making steps and starting to do that? Absolutely. I mean, we're here. This opportunity never would have opened up if nothing was being done. However, do I think that we've reached the point where we should? Not yet, but we're doing something about it. Do I definitely agree with Jones about a kind of almost, you know, forgive me if I said this wrong, like an app or a way of people being able to test their racial biasness? Absolutely. I think what I remember being as a student really challenging in higher education was Exeter is brilliant in their mantra and wanting to make the exceptional happen, and I am as a staff member definitely believe that. However, what can be challenging as a BAME student studying here can be, what are the opportunities that I can access as a BAME student, which are very particularly unique to my set, unique to addressing my challenges, that can actually help me progress. And I think there can be a sometimes blanket approach with how you walk in that, how you make those steps in that. And we are still seeing a disparity with the access, with the progress, with the success of underrepresented groups. So I think it's fair to say that there is still more that we can do in different colleges. What that looks like will be different too.
I completely agree with you. You know, it's we still 0.0 almost. You know, in some respect, because it's you know, we're talking about this also in the business school. You know, where is the, you know, where this is represented at the moment. You know, it needs to be, we need to rethink all the history of business or the history of management. You know, where is the issue? You know, we need to really think in a different way about everything. And you know, it's great that at Exeter we're starting to do this, which, you know, which gives some hope, at least looking for something hopeful. Jones, can I ask you, you know, if you have to maybe ask, you know, to the local partnership, to the Chamber of Commerce, you know, what can be done, you know, in that area to support the community or support Black entrepreneurs? Or maybe, you know, what is your thinking around that?
Well, you know, it's funny because it's not funny actually, but I do some work for Cornwall Council and a steering committee that I'm part of. And actually, honestly, I think the easiest thing that can be done is to go and look back at the number of commissioned reports that have, you know, been authorized by various governments in recent and past times, and implement just 50% of those. I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel. I think every government in succession has conducted some form of research or inquiry into a lot of these issues affecting race and made numerous representations, and they just haven't been done. So I think on this call we've all talked about different things that have worked well that we're looking to see. I mentioned the bias training, and actually, there are companies out there that have developed working models around bias assessment, racial bias assessment for people to take. So it's not something that's necessarily new, just like, employment-related technology is not necessarily new. But I feel like what the Chamber of Commerce can do and what any senior body can do is actually say, okay, what are the most recent, all the recent inquiries that have been done around race issues, examine those and pick 50% of them and implement them now. Because I've looked at them and they're reoccurring themes. And honestly, the only reason why they don't get done is because people just don't consider it a priority every time a new government takes control. So it's not the sexiest answer in the world. It seems like it's on the route to nowhere, but a quick Google search will show you whether it's the Lamy reports or whatever. So there.
I actually like this answer a lot. But we got 1 minute left, and
okay.
Then we can close like a few minutes earlier. But if I have to, what happen if you fail a test? Let's say you propose this idea and I like it of you have to pass a test, in which you. So what would be the consequence if you fail it? What would you?
No. So a test isn't about failing. A test is about just like a personality test. It's not about failing. It's about understanding. I mean, I was saying this to myself while you were speaking, right? It's like I'm walking up to the geezer, to someone around me and saying to them, a white person, saying, listen, I'm different to you in many ways. I'm visually different to you. I acknowledge that. Do you? Or do you seem to believe that my difference to you is something that doesn't exist and you manage it? Because it's nonsense. So I think there's this process of awareness and this process of acknowledgement that tests allow you to see. And from that point on, it's about ownership. At the end of the day, I've got a propensity to be abrasive, because I'm an extrovert. I've not failed that test, but I'm being aware of who I am. I'm taking accountability for the process I want to go through, whether it's leadership and whatever. And how am I going to harness this skill for the good that it does have? How am I going to make changes for the values that I've identified as being important? So for me, that's what these tests do at leadership levels, to say, hang on a minute, there's 12 of us here making decisions about this company. And we've all identified we do have problems identifying value in people that look different to us. So do we need to remove ourselves from the recruitment policy? Do we need to look at the recruitment policy? Am I picking all my lecturers because, I come from tech. So there's a serious pattern matching issue that Silicon Valley is still struggling with, i.e., do you look like me? No. Do you sound like me? No. Is your hair like mine? No. Did you go to an Ivy League school? No. And, just forget it. It's pattern matching. It's not necessarily a matter of right or wrong, but if I don't acknowledge those things, they can't be changed. So that's what I mean by tests, really. You can't fail them, you own them, and you work with your HR function, whoever, to help you to implement the changes that are recommended as a result of what you've gone through.
Thank you so much. Okay, fantastic. I really love this discussion, and we reaching the end of this hour, and I hope it's just the beginning. And we've been discussing before this that this is so exciting, and we look forward to to repeat this next year, and really in a way to make it every day. That would be something. So I look forward to maybe invite you guys to speak to our students at the business school. Maybe talk to Izzy about changing our curricula, and we have this daily conversation. It shouldn't be like 1 week per year. Okay, and I look forward, Shibon, to visit you in Falmouth with your Jamaican food. I can't wait.